Breaking news this morning, Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia has just said he is a no on President Biden's cornerstone legislation, Build Back Better. Take a listen.
I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't. I've tried everything humanly possible. I can't get there.
You're done. This is a no.
This is a no on this legislation. I have tried everything I know to do.
Joining us now exclusively to react, the man managing the legislation, Senate Budget Committee Chairman Bernie Sanders of Vermont. So Senator Sanders, Chairman Sanders, Senator Manchin says he can't get there. This is a no. He's tried everything. What's your reaction?
Well, I think he's going to have a lot of explaining to do to the people of West Virginia, to tell them why he doesn't have the guts to take on the drug companies and lower the cost of prescription drugs, why he is not prepared to expand home health care. West Virginia is one of the poorest states in this country. You got elderly people and disabled people who would like to stay at home or forced into nursing homes. He's going to have to tell the people of West Virginia why he doesn't want to expand Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and eyeglasses. I've been to West Virginia a number of times, and it's a great state, beautiful people, but it is a state that is struggling. And he's going to have to tell the people of West Virginia why he's rejecting what the scientists of the world are telling us, that we have to act boldly and transform our energy system to protect future generations from the devastation of climate change. You know, what's going on now, Jake, in Washington is the big money interests are pouring hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to make sure that we continue to pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, that the rich do not start paying their fair share of taxes. And I would have hoped that we could have had at least 50 Democrats on board who have the guts to stand up for working families and take on the lobbyists and the powerful special interests. We have no Republican support. Not one Republican in the United States Senate or the House, for that matter, is prepared to stand up to the drug companies or the insurance companies or the wealthy. I would hope we would have had 50 Democrats. But if that is the case, then I hope that we will bring a strong bill to the floor of the Senate as soon as we can and let Mr. Manchin explain to the people of West Virginia why he doesn't have the guts to stand up to powerful special interests.
Oh, so you want to vote on it no matter what, even if...
Absolutely. Absolutely. The American people have got to understand what is at stake. For decades now, what Congress has been doing, giving tax breaks to the rich, not standing up to the drug companies, so that we end up paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, ignoring climate change. The President of the United States and almost every Democrat is trying finally to address these issues.
Did you know this was coming?
Mr. Manchin doesn't want to support us. Well, look, we've been dealing with Mr. Manchin for month after month after month. But if he doesn't have the courage to do the right thing for the working families of West Virginia and America, let him vote no in front of the whole world.
So how do you tell somebody out there watching, wondering, how come you couldn't get Joe Manchin on board?
Well, as I've indicated, we're taking on not just Joe Manchin, we're taking on, do you know how much money the pharmaceutical industry has spent in the last year on lobbying alone? Over $300 million, plus campaign contributions, plus all kinds of advertising. Fossil fuel industry is spending a fortune. Let's not kid ourselves. We have a corrupt political system dominated by big money interests. And finally, some of us are saying, let's stand up for working families. Average worker has not seen a pay raise in inflation accounted for dollars in 45 years, while the rich are becoming phenomenally richer. Corporate profits are at an all-time high. And what some of us are saying, maybe, we'll stand up for working families for a change. But apparently we don't have the 50 votes that we need. And I think we take that message right into the 2022 campaigns. Which party, with the exception maybe of one or two people, which party is prepared to do the right things for the elderly, for the children? And by the way, we talk about kids. I want everybody out there to know, if Mr. Manchin votes no, those $300 tax credits that have gone a long way to reducing childhood poverty in America, they're gone. That's over. We cut childhood poverty by over 40%, an extraordinary accomplishment. Manchin doesn't want to do that. Tell that to the struggling families of West Virginia and America.
So you're suggesting he doesn't have the guts to stand up for working families and to take on the moneyed interests. If Senator Manchin were here, he would say, my state is a state that voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. What I'm doing in going after and opposing this legislation will be popular. And Manchin has said he thinks all this money. He's saying all this money is going to make inflation worse.
Well, let me talk about it. Joe Manchin voted for a huge increase in military spending. Manchin voted for an infrastructure bill, which added $250 billion to the deficit. The truth of the matter is that if you look at the military budget, $770 billion, times that by 10 years, it is 4 times higher than what the Build Back Better plan is. Now, Mr. Manchin says he's representing the people of West Virginia. Okay, why don't you do a poll? It's CNN, do a poll, and you ask the people of West Virginia whether or not they want to lower the cost of prescription drugs. You ask them whether they want to expand Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and eyeglasses. You ask them whether they want to continue the $300 payment to help working parents in these very difficult times bring up their kids with dignity. Ask them if they want to deal with climate change. On all of those issues, I suspect people of West Virginia, like every other state in this country, will say, yes, do the right thing for working families. And I challenge. I told Manchin, by the way, I'll pay for the damn poll in West Virginia on those issues. See how the people of West Virginia feel.
Is there a strategy forward? Is there a way to pass parts of this legislation piecemeal, assuming that you do bring it forward for a vote and assuming Joe Manchin is one of 51 who vote against it?
Well, the problem that we have is that obviously you need 60 votes. We have no support from Republicans to pass standing legislation. So it has to be done through reconciliation. So I haven't thought about that yet. But all I do know is that the dividing line in this country is going to be very clear. On one side of the equation, you're going to have Republicans, I suspect Mr. Manchin, who say, yeah, it's okay. We don't have to deal with the fact that billionaires, in some cases, don't pay a nickel in federal taxes. We don't have to deal with climate change. We don't have to deal with childhood poverty. We don't have to deal with the high cost of prescription drugs. And on the other side will be those who say, yeah, we do. And that tells me that we need a lot more than 50 Democrats in the United States Senate.
So there was this deal making that went on before this because there was the bipartisan infrastructure deal that the Biden administration wanted, and so did moderates and Democrats and also some Republicans. And then there was the Build Back Better Act, and progressives they wanted them both passed in tandem. You wanted them passed in tandem, and then there was this agreement, pass infrastructure, and then we'll get to Build Back Better. And President Biden said he would get the 50 votes. So in retrospect, was it a mistake to do that deal?
Well, the people, and people in the House who said that they have to go in tandem for precisely this reason, because we feared very much, not that we were against a strong infrastructure bill. I wanted that very, very much. But we understood that if we didn't keep it together, there would be those who would pass the infrastructure bill and not deal with the needs of the working class and the middle class of this country. That was the fear. That fear, if Manchin continues along this path, turned out to be justified.
So, and Senator Manchin is opposed getting rid of the filibuster, which is something a lot of progressives want to do, so it only takes 51 votes instead of 60 to pass legislation. So what's your message to the millions of Americans who were hoping for the enhanced child tax credit extension, new child care programs, health care subsidies, paid family leave, environmental measures, et cetera? Is the Biden agenda dead?
We've got a news alert to bring you here on Live Now from Fox. Senator Joe Manchin, the West Virginia senator, declaring today that after months of negotiations, he has determined that there is no way he can support the massive social spending bill known as the Build Back Better Act. Speaking with Fox News Sunday, Manchin said that he has spoken with President Biden, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. He said, quote, "I've done everything humanly possible," talking about how hard he has worked to try to reach an acceptable compromise on the bill. In the end, however, he said that between ongoing inflation, the national debt, geopolitical unrest, and the COVID-19 pandemic, the bill being pushed by his fellow Democrats was too much. He said, quote, "When you have these things coming at you the way that they are right now, I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation." He said, stating that if he cannot explain to his constituents why he would vote for a bill then he cannot vote for it, despite all the work he and other Democrats have put into trying to make it work. He said, there is a no. This is a no. I have tried everything I know to do. So obviously, this has been a big story that we've been following on Capitol Hill. We did know that originally Congress had voted to push the Build Back Better Act and, the status of it to next year. It had been stalling in Congress and in Washington, D.C. for quite some time. So wanted to bring you the latest remarks that Senator Joe Manchin did make officially on this Sunday.